Grace is here. I was just introducing you, Grace, as a second-year student studying English at Merton College. Is that right, at Oxford?
Yeah,
Super.
yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, for everybody who hasn't tuned in yet, these lives that we're doing are pretty much demystifying Oxbridge, and more specifically, I suppose, every guest that we've had on so far is from Oxford. So we're just going to be talking a little bit about what life is like, some crazy things that Oxford people do, some crazy traditions, and also just stuff about college life, and any questions that you do want to post in the comments below. So at this point, I'll just hand over to Grace, who can explain a little bit more about, what she's studying, her college, and also she's part of a really exciting new project that she's set up called Infuse. So yeah, tell us a bit more about Infuse and about what you're studying at Oxford, Grace.
Yeah, sure. So I'm doing English language and literature, the course 1. So once you get into second year, you can split into doing course 1 or course 2. The second option is like medievalism. It's all like pre-1350, I think. So I can't really answer questions about that, but I know broadly about it. I'm currently the programs like manager, which sounds quite fancy, but I don't know. My friend Dylan set up Infuse, so it's like in-fuse.co.uk, and it's going to be a free 1-week summer school online for Oxford and like anyone interested in applying for Oxford and Cambridge, or just like a general university application advice. And it's going to have like, we've got like admissions tutors and like people who work in lots of different industries that we've been emailing to come and do talks and like personal statement advice sessions and everything like that, and a lot of Q&As. So if you want to go to the website or follow the Infuse Instagram page at Infuse, it will, you can just sign up and take part in that.
Super. That sounds really exciting. And for anybody who doesn't know what an admissions tutor is, what's their role and what do they actually do at the college?
So an admissions tutor would be the person who studies your chosen subject and will be like interviewing you. So for example, it would be like the senior tutor at one of the colleges in biochemistry, and then we've got one from like humanities and one from sciences, just so they can come and give some advice on like what they've seen happen in interviews and like how it broadly works for your subject and things like that.
Oh, super. And you're going to have some of those admissions tutors actually at the summer program you're running?
Yeah. We've contacted. We've got like quite a big team, so a lot of contacts. A lot of work has gone on, but it's very exciting.
Wow. No, that's really super. I mean, these people, for anybody, I suppose, who isn't familiar with an admissions tutor, as Grace just said, they're the people who are sort of, I guess, calling the shots in admissions. They're the big people. So if you're thinking of applying, they're definitely the kind of people you want to be speaking to about applying, about sort of what you should be doing in preparation. And it's for year 12 then, or is it also for other students who are slightly younger?
So yeah, we kind of recommend year 12 because of like the nature of like the personal statement workshops. But I don't think we have an official, like, I guess you can just apply, and I don't think there's anything against like maybe a GCSE student who's particularly eager applying just to come and listen. Also, I was just going to put in the chat the website for Infuse. Is that a good idea? Is that okay?
Sure, yeah, exactly. And anybody who's sort of just have a look at that. Perfect. Great. Yeah, thanks for popping that in the chat. And while we're on the talk of admission, one question that we asked yesterday to Zara, who is studying engineering, was the craziest interview question that she was asked or that she's heard asked. So I suppose, without putting you too much on the spot, you have sort of crazy interview story. It doesn't necessarily have to have happened to you, maybe to one of your friends or something that you've heard in the past. Some sort of story where somebody's gone into an interview and they've just been asked like a really tough question, or there's just a really funny story. I think I've heard about people going into an interview and then like being shown weird stuff as well. So I think one of my friends who went up to interview for NatSci, so Natural Sciences at Cambridge, was shown like loads of jars filled with brains. And I think because he was like doing bio-NatSci, so he was shown lots of jars filled with brains. So I suppose, what's your sort of take on it? What's the what's the craziest thing that you've seen happen in an interview or heard happen?
Well, this was from like 30 years ago, but I remember once I was babysitting and the mum had gone to Cambridge for medicine, and she said they'd given her plasticine, like 4 balls, and they asked her to mold broadly like the various stages of the like child in the womb via like Play-Doh. But I guess sometimes these kind of stories make it seem like it's some strange test that like they throw all these things out at you. But I guess the fact that that's my only vaguely interesting anecdote from like 30 years ago, I get broadly they're hopefully quite normal, but the funny ones are really funny. I mean, my like weirdest one was just like he picked a book that I'd really liked in my personal statement, because obviously I do English, and he was just like, I hate that book, like try and convince me not to hate it, and I don't think you will, but just try. And that threw me off a bit, but like it was kind of like obvious that he just wanted me to like persuade him and like talk about the book critically, so it wasn't too layered, you know. But yeah.
No, that sounds great. I mean, I think, yeah, obviously the crazy ones make good stories, and it's also funny to read about them. But in reality, when you go out, it probably won't be that bad. It won't be sort of one of the horror stories where you get, you get asked that's just impossible to answer. And one question that we have on the topic of interviews just came up in the comments is, are English or science interviews harder? I guess that's a tricky question. What are your thoughts on it? From what I think is probably just different.
It's kind of like saying, is Oxford or Cambridge harder to get into, because like you only applied for one, so no one knows what both are like, so in a sense it kind of doesn't matter, because you're only gonna really apply for one unless you have a complete 180 and you like go from doing English at Oxford to like natural sciences at Cambridge. But I don't think that happens quite often. Like by this stage you usually kind of know, because you've done the like certain A levels to get in. So like I guess if you're already doing like fully humanities A levels, you kind of just going along what you're passionate about. So like, I don't know, interviews are easier the more passionate you are about the subject. So it depends which one you're more passionate about. I know that's like a bit of a like an annoying roundabout answer, but I don't know what you would say.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, there was one teacher at my old school who applied for medicine at Cambridge, and then while he was there, switched to English. So maybe he'd be one to ask about which one's harder. But yeah, very subjective, rather than actually there being a concrete answer to science being harder or English. Maybe one thing actually that might be interesting to talk about for the person who asked this is the workload, because I think that the work is slightly different. Like at least at Cambridge, there were a lot of students who were studying science who would have like Saturday lectures. And I think in terms of like contact time, they would often have more, whereas humanities students would, they would have like, a little bit less like one-on-one or rather lecture time, and they would be more like self-studying. Would you think that's an accurate description?
Yeah, I'd say like time management comes a lot more into humanities. Like I guess it's a bit more flexible, which you could say means like you do have less contact hours. You won't have like a 9 to 5 in a lab like maybe biochemistry would, but you would just have like 3 days to do an essay, and you just have to figure out timings yourself, which is tricky in its own way. But yeah, so it's kind of about how you are best as a learner, whether you need to give yourself you could give yourself feasibly the same 9 to 5 as like a science student would have to do. And you'd be doing the same amount of time, but you could always do more, you could always do less. It's just up to how you are as a learner, so it's a bit more flexible.
Do you get weekends off then? Because I suppose you might not have any lectures, but do you find yourself still working on weekends while you're at Oxford, or do you just try and sort of block the time out so that you can have that free?
So I try and do like, I don't work really like too late in the evenings, and I don't really work on a Sunday because I just kind of don't really have energy at the end of the week. And then Saturday I might do like maybe like 3 to 5 hours, not like a big study day. But it depends whether you're like, when your essays are set, if it was set on Friday and due Monday, which it is sometimes, then you kind of had no choice, and then I might be doing like a couple 8-hour study days. So yeah, I won't lie and like say that I haven't done a full weekend shift. It's just how it goes. But
yeah. I mean, one question that we did have yesterday on the poll. Well, I'd say that, I think, I was probably working on weekends as well. I think just because everything's compressed into that, like, ludicrously short 8-week term, it pretty much doesn't leave much time outside. Well, if you don't work on the weekends, you can get really behind. And so I did try to do quite a bit on the weekends, just to get ahead, I suppose. And that means that actually, you know, during Monday to Friday, you can have a little bit more time. And I was also doing sports at the same time. So, yeah, that would help basically to just smooth things out. So if you're working 7 days a week, you can work a little bit less rather than just sort of cramming everything into one 5-day slot. But what I was going to ask you as well as a follow up to that is, how do you like keep away from distractions then? I mean, at home and during like online learning, it's Netflix, YouTube, that extra tab that's sort of just calling out to you and saying, you know, how do you try and manage that? What are your like personal tips on that for anybody who's sort of struggling with that at the moment?
I would say, I guess, I don't know, maybe change of location. Like, I know it's hard because cafes aren't really open at the moment. Usually that works, but like if you start just going into the kitchen instead and like studying in there and being like, okay, when I'm in the kitchen, I don't go on my phone, or like switching your phone entirely off. I know these are quite like cliche ones, but they're surprisingly effective when you have to like redo the whole process. Yeah, and maybe like just not being too harsh on yourself, because when it becomes forbidden to like go on Netflix, then you just become guilty when you're watching the Netflix, and you kind of like demonize it, and then the temptation becomes subconsciously more. So I feel like just like giving into it and being like, there's 24 hours a day, I can sleep in and watch Netflix and I won't die. Like, I'm 19, I'm like it's fine to watch, even though you're an Oxford student, you should like prioritize studying. Like, that isn't always the case.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose there's definitely, you sort of do need to take a break every so often as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to do you good, because then when you come back to focusing, you just be like, you know, more recharged, and you can just get on with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think burnout comes when you start to restrict yourself too much, and sometimes you're not conscious because you think you're just being like a productive learner, but then if it's like you're always restraining yourself, then it's like you don't know whether, it's hard to find a line between like all work and no play. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the sort of the fun question that we will ask, probably since we're coming to midway through, is what is a really crazy Oxford tradition? So yesterday, Zara talked about trashing, which is like this tradition where after exams, you'll have like all this silly string and you'll get basically trashed, right? And then you'll go and jump in the river afterwards. So that one's already taken. What do you think is the next craziest tradition? I think she did also mention that like you have to take these mortarboards into the exam, which is also quite strange. So you can't, and then but you can't wear them because you're not a graduand yet.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one for like university wide. I suppose this Merton time ceremony, I don't know if you've talked about that before. Merton's time ceremony. No, this is a really odd one. It's created in like the 1970s, 80s, I think, where when it's like a time-saving day, you know, when the clocks go back, Mertonians, or like people at Merton, go in one of the quads, walk backwards during the hour between 12 and 1 or 1 and 2, when the hour's pushed back, and since that hour like disappears, they preserve the space-time continuum by walking backwards, all in their gowns and their caps, and you turn at the circles and you like hold arms, and you have a party beforehand, so you can be a little bit tipsy if you like to drink, and they usually pour out of water bottles if you want to do that, so it's really funny and kind of crazy.
Oh, that's so weird / cool, actually. So I mean, what's the tradition behind that? How it started? Is it like a science thing? Because you said it's like preserving the time.
Yeah, it was probably created by some science students, but it was like self-consciously created with the attempt to become a tradition, which it did. It's still here like 30 years later. Yeah.
Oh, so it's not, so I guess in the context of Oxford, it's not super, super old. It's like relatively modern then.
Yeah, considering the college was made in 1264, like it took a bit of time to get that tradition, but I'm very happy that they did. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Is it organized by the students then, or actually has it been taken up by the college?
Yeah, it's like an official, like, college shuts its like not board, that makes it sound like some kind of dystopian fiction, but like no guests are allowed in. It's like it kind of just shuts down and becomes like a big sense of community. It's really nice and a bit crazy.
Is there footage of it, or is it like one of those top secret like Oxford things where nobody's ever seen inside this like secret tradition that Oxford do.
No, there's definitely footage. If you look at any like person who goes to Merton on their Instagram story, you can see like in the first week there'll be like a post for the time ceremony. It's kind of iconic.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I'll definitely have a look at that. That's cool. Yeah, maybe that's something that I'll have a look at and maybe also post on the Instagram for anybody who's interested in having a look.
Yeah, definitely.
That's super. And so I guess this is sort of taking it a little bit back to what we were talking about before, but would you say that in terms of getting into Oxford, would you say it's a bit more sort of luck, or is it hard work? Like, what were you doing, let's say for anybody who's in year 12/13 thinking of going to Oxford, what do you think you did that put you in the position where coming into interview, coming into exams, you were able to actually get in? Like, do you have any sort of secret tips that you're able to give to anyone?
Yeah, I guess I don't know, it's really hard because I used to think that like I wasn't going to apply to Oxford because of like the myths that I believed about it, but like deciding that I was doing it for like the reason that I was genuinely really excited about my subject was really good. Like if you think about the reason you want to go and it comes back to being like the subject that you're studying, you're probably going for the right reason and you're more likely to get in because you're passionate about your subject. So reading widely helped me, like just watching random like TED Ed 10-minute like videos on like philosophy on YouTube, or going on TED talks about like broadly like maybe like linguistics because I was interested in that, or like classic literature because I was creating this like field and bank of like random references that really like made me feel confident towards interviews, and I could reference a bit in like the odd essay. It just made me feel more confident as a learner. So like reading around your subject is what you need to do.
Were you making like flashcards or all of those notes?
Yeah, I have a Google Doc of collaborative notes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a few notes.
And you mentioned a couple of myths at the beginning. Like what were those myths, or what do you think was one of the worst myths that that was actually preventing you? Or you mentioned that it felt like there were a couple of myths when you were thinking of applying that actually almost came to the point where you're like, maybe I won't apply to Oxford. Like, what do you think is one of those ones that is actually a myth? Like, for people who are applying, they think that this is the case, but it's actually not, and so they should apply.
Yeah, I feel like kind of just coming from a school where people didn't apply, just it's not really normalized. So it feels like you have to extra put yourself out there because you're known as like, people are very aware that you're applying to Oxford, and it makes it feel like you're saying like, okay, I'm smart. Like I'm saying I'm smart and putting myself out and applying to like one of the best unis in the world. So I was a bit cautious about that, especially if you're a bit introverted. That might be like a terrifying thing. But I guess that's like just a little bump that you have to get over. And also I guess like thinking that being from like maybe like a state school background or where not many people applied, that like I don't know, you'd stand out a bit or something, or like you wouldn't be as like educated or qualified, like I don't know, all these intrusive thoughts that you get. But then you realize that like everyone's putting themselves out there. Yes, it is a bit more normalized for some people, but like I don't know, I guess like you're opening an opportunity for yourself if you feel like it's something that you'd really enjoy going to Oxford or Cambridge. You're giving yourself an exciting opportunity to like be put off by stereotypes means that like the stereotypes might not change as readily because people who are put off by them won't like change the patterns. So like to add an extra like non-traditional background to the mix adds more like diversity, and that's what Oxford needs. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And did you end up putting together like a secret application then where you didn't tell your friends or your teachers that you were applying? Or did
No, I made it known, which is nerve-wracking. Did your friends know that you were applying, or were you quite secret about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think basically, we sort of discussed, and we were able to form like little like study groups as well, so that we were all sort of in the same boat when we were applying.
That's nice. That's really sweet. I think that's good to have friends along. Oh, I think there's a question in the comments about work-life balance for humanities or science students. I don't mind going. Like, I feel like work-life balance is something that I I don't know. I like everyone struggles with at some point during their degree. You can become a bit overwhelmed by like the opportunities out there. But like I don't know. I feel like broadly you can follow like a 9 to 5 day. I think I heard someone say they do an 8-8-8 where they make sure they get like 8 hours sleep a night, 8 hours like doing like cooking, eating, hanging with friends, and then like 8 hours studying, and that really worked for them. And they did philosophy. So yeah, I don't know how yours work.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I do actually have a story about this. So, and I think that it did quite actually resonate with me a bit. So I was on the varsity trip in first year, and basically, for anybody who doesn't know what the varsity trip is, it's basically where Oxford and Cambridge get together and they go skiing. So it's pretty much like the two universities, and the tradition is set up because there used to be like this skiing race, or actually there still is, but it was started initially just like the blues teams, which is like the top teams at Oxford and Cambridge, would race each other in the Alps. And what happened is this basically just came into this massive sort of like event where people will go. And when I was there, it was Val Thorens, where everybody just went. So we were there with two universities, and we were sitting there, and I met a person who was studying at Oxford, and she said, when I was in first year, I felt really guilty about not studying. And so I was just thinking, if I'm not studying, what am I doing? I'm letting myself down. And then she said, when she got into second year, she was still sort of like that. She was like, maybe I should do a bit more studying on the weekend. And then when she came into third year, she sort of really calmed down, and she was like, you know what, I'm going to take the weekend off. I'm just going to relax, and I can do my work at a different time. So I think the point is that she gained a little bit of maturity, and she was like, you know what, I know when to do my work. If I'm not doing work at the time, all the time, I don't have to feel guilty about it, and I can still get top grades at the end of the year. So pretty much like when you're coming in, I think that's sort of something that a lot of people struggle with. I'm at Cambridge, I'm at Oxford, everyone's really smart, there's tons of work to be doing. What if I'm not working all the time? Maybe I'm letting myself down. But at the end of the day, I think you get used to it, you get used to doing the work, and it's really tough, but it's manageable. And you work out how to fit everything along the schedule. So it's I'd say from my perspective, it's a real learning curve. And when you come in your first year, you might think, I just need to be working 24/7. But at the end of the day, you can still get really top grades whilst sort of having a little bit of a work-life balance. I'm not sure if you'd agree with that.
No, I think that's really good advice. Like you work so hard to get in, you don't want to look back and think, oh, all I did was like stress that I wasn't doing enough, because it's supposed to be like the best 3 years of your life. Like it would be a shame. It is quite intense sometimes at Oxford. Like I feel like that's something that we can just establish is true. But yeah, like that, I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, a final thing before we come to the end of this live is what would you say is one thing you really wish you could have known when you were applying? So we sort of touched on a couple of similar ideas a little bit earlier on, but if you had one nugget of information, sort of like, a couple of sentences just to tell somebody who's applying, maybe it's to do with a myth, maybe it's to do with, the application process, so something very specific, something about UCAS, what would that be? Sort of as like, just a parting thing for anybody who's just tuning in towards the end to go away and think about when they are applying to Oxford or Cambridge.
Okay, so I would say specifically for kind of subject related, super quick, I would say, like people kind of think that there's like a hidden, maybe for English, for example, there's a hidden like secret book that you have to have read. Like you have to have read like the classics. Like there has to be one amount of Dickens on your personal statement, one like Greek text or something. But there isn't, because they're looking for a unique student, and also they get international applications like from all around the world. So if there was like an exact formula, like I don't know, different school systems would get it differently. I don't know. So like it's just about you as an individual. There's no secret code. And like more generally, I guess, like I used to think that Oxford and Cambridge applicants were like, they knew that they were the smartest of the smart, and I was just kind of like, oh, I'll apply, but everyone else is way more confident than me. But like everyone else is sort of just like giving it a shot. So you might as well just give it your shot. No one like is X amount more confident than you, because you don't know anyone else's like head. So just like kind of take yourself out your own head and just go for it if you even feel like you have an inkling of doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's basically, yeah, just go for it. As Nike say, just do it. Don't think about it too much. You shouldn't overthink it. If you want to do it, if you like the sort of the idea of Oxford or Cambridge, just do it. I mean, you won't lose anything. And I think what I said yesterday as well is, if you do go ahead and apply and you do get invited for interview as well, that's a unique experience in itself. Because especially at Oxford, you spend the night there, or even sort of a couple of nights, just in the whole ecosystem, and that's something that you can't really buy your way into. You can't actually pay for a ticket to go and experience the whole interview process, the whole sort of the whole rigmarole, and the idea, sort of going to the college, staying the night there. Yeah, if you do want to apply, just go for it.
Yeah, definitely. You probably you won't regret it, and it's a really exciting opportunity. And yeah, I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Grace. For everybody watching, Grace is from Infuse, and they're running a summer program this summer.
Yeah.
So Grace, a few words about that for anybody who wasn't there at the beginning, and sort of how people could apply.
Yeah, sure. So I'll put it in the chat, but it's in-fuse.co.uk. And sorry, autocorrect is doing me over right now. And it's just 1 week long. We've got loads of admissions tutors and people from different careers to come and do Q&A sessions, and you can just sign up and get lots of free advice from Oxford and Cambridge students about applying. Trying to get as many people from different backgrounds to apply as possible, so anyone is welcome.
Yeah, I mean, Infuse sounds absolutely fantastic, and for anybody who's applying in the meantime as well, and sort of can't wait until summer to connect with a mentor, UniReach is also sort of the place to go to. So UniReach connects you with a mentor from Oxford within 24 hours. So let's say you want to be like Grace, studying English at Oxford, you'll be able to go to UniReach's website and go ahead and contact them, and they'll be able to match you with somebody who's currently studying English and can walk you through the process, and just have a chat about what it's actually like there. And you'll be able to do that one-on-one. And on our end, I'm from EasyA. What we do is we connect students with tutors actually in under 24 hours and within minutes to help students get stuck with problems that they are struggling with. So, for example, if you're stuck on a really tough maths question, we do only help with maths at the moment, but we will be expanding to other subjects soon. If you're stuck on that, all you need to do is download the EasyA app, take a picture of the question that you're stuck on, and you'll get connected with a mentor who can help within a few minutes. So there you have it. EasyA, UniReach, and Infuse. EasyA is for if you get stuck on a math problem. UniReach is there to provide mentorship to you. So they'll connect you with a mentor within 24 hours. And also we've got Grace here from Infuse, who is running the summer program. So all of our Instagram handles and sort of websites are there in the comments. We are continuing our series tomorrow. We're at 10 o'clock, and we'll be continuing that throughout this week, Monday to Friday, and also next week at 10 o'clock. So if you enjoyed today's session, definitely make sure to tune in then at 10. Thank you again, Grace. It's been a pleasure to have you on today's Instagram Live, and I think that's been really useful for everybody watching, just shedding a little bit of light on what it's actually like at Oxford, and also, I guess, providing more of the human side behind it, that everybody is just in the same boat when they're applying. And actually, I think if I would take one thing from today's Instagram Live that you said that I really liked, is sort of just to go for it. If you want to apply, just don't think, I'm not smart enough, or there are all these myths about Oxford, maybe I'm the only person at my school applying. Just go for it. And you know what? You might just get in, and otherwise, you'll still have an amazing experience going through the whole interview process, and going through sort of the applications, just finding out more about the university.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun. Yeah, and good luck, everyone.
Yeah. Good luck, everyone, and thank you, Grace. See you.
Thank you. Bye.